I don't know if this is a guy. Six. All right. All right, it's 6 p.m. Let's call to order this regular meeting of the Pleasant View City Council, February 22nd, 2022, at 6 p.m. Welcome, everyone. We should have helped us at 2:22, but we decided to do it at 6. Welcome to our public. Big crowd tonight. Weather's probably keeping people away. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, opening prayer reading or expression of thought. Councilmember Eric.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful that we can meet together tonight as this council meeting, and we're thankful for the opportunity we have to live in this beautiful city, and grateful for the residents that live here and the care and concern they take for each other, and for our law enforcement and for their efforts and for the things that they do for us to make this community enjoyable. And we pray tonight that we'll be able to make decisions that will best affect the city and help us to have the forethought and insight to plan for a future and to keep this city a place that we love and we say these things in the name of Jesus.
Thank you. Next item is declaration of conflicts of interest. Has everybody had a chance to review the agenda, and are there any conflicts that need to be declared? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to comments or questions to the mayor or council from the public. Anybody from the public wish to address the mayor or council? Seeing none, we'll move to the consent item, minutes of February 8th, 2022. Any corrections or if not, an entertainment?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent items.
Second. Motion by Marriott, second by Gibson. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, first item of business is a public hearing. Discussion possible action to consider amending the Pleasant View Municipal Code 18-31 Commercial Zone CP1, CP2, and CP3 by adding assisted living as either a conditional or permitted use. Ordinance 2022-5. Entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Uri, second by Arrington. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
For the public hearing, Amy.
Yes, thank you. So before you this evening is an item that recently went to the Planning Commission on January 21st with a recommendation for approval, a unanimous recommendation. This is to expand the areas within the city that we allow for assisted living. And so this would expand to CP1, CP2, and CP3. And that's our planned neighborhood commercial, our planned community commercial, and planned commercial. And so let me pull up a map. I don't want to see our.
While you're doing that, let me just note that in CP1 it would be conditional, and CP2 would be
Permitted on.
permitted.
And
There's just a little typo on their memorandum that she showed you. This says she's got CP2 listed twice.
oh, I apologize. Yes, it's supposed to be CP1, CP2, and CP3. So apologize for that. The CP1 is recommended as conditional, and CP2 and 3 are permitted. And one of the things with that, Laurie and I did a little bit of additional research because conditional is kind of a tricky thing with the way that state law frames it, and so ultimately a conditional use is an approved use with conditions. And if there's really not a lot of discomfort or concerns with conditions that would need to be established to mediate concerns with the assisted living, one option before you this evening would be to approve all of them as permitted.
Let me address that real quick, because that was my initial thought, and then I started thinking, well, if you wanted neighborhood commercial, one of the conditions could be like, a certain limit on number of units or something like that, where we wanted to keep it at or the neighborhood commercial, we might want to say, okay, you want to use X now, but if you want to do more, let's do it.
Not, it doesn't go into that, that's not.
Why did you mention ultimately us, that is.
And so with that, this map here shows there's not a lot of areas that this includes, but this is CC1 up here, and we also have a CC1 down here, and then here we go. So then there's a CC2, and then CC1. So that's Alberta right here, Legacy Drive. Where these areas are. So there's not a lot of areas in the city that need these zoning requirements. Taking more down on the other CC1, C1, but it does expand the areas where this type of use could be utilized. And so just a couple of things to keep in mind with this proposal, aging populations to allow them to stay in place, and then also just growth in the community. So those are some of the reasons for this consideration. I don't know if there's any questions.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Do we have assisted living defined in that?
It's included in your packet, but I don't know if it's defined as assisted living.
Yeah, I did too. I did see that definition.
I don't know if anything beyond that though.
Maybe that's good enough. That's what we keep doing.
Yeah, I don't see anything further.
Assisted living facility is 18.04.065. It's a residential facility licensed by the state of Utah with a home like setting that provides an array of coordinated supportive personal and healthcare services available 24 hours a day to residents who have been assessed under the Utah Department of Health or the Utah Department of Human Services rules to need any of these services. Each resident shall have a service plan based on an assessment, which may include nursing care, administration, support, services to promote self-sufficiency. Such facilities do not include and are not classified as residential facilities for elderly persons or residential facilities for persons with disabilities.
Mayor? Could I make a motion to go out and go out of the public? Is there any members of the public that would address us on this? Seeing none, I'm going to say none. Make that motion. I'll second the motion. By Gibson, second by Mary, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing, comment?
So I have a question on size. You know, I can see in some of these areas we have designated those as commercial for tax rate. I mean, that's why I put it that way. I don't know what we get out of that, but there are some huge facilities that have gone in. And would that negatively affect our commercial wants in some of those zones, the 1, 2, and 3? And I know they're scattered throughout, but would we want to have that as a consideration on will we blanket allow it? Because I'm all for it, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. We've had such a heartache, some people, I'll take over the commercial. And I doubt we would make, sales tax revenue on, I don't know, is there sales tax revenue? Or would just be a property tax?
No, not typically. It would be the property tax, and I think that you make a really excellent point with size, and if that's something that the council desires for some further I guess, you could table that and we could.
Well, and I can see some small things that are nice, and we want to have that, and as you said, the aging community is coming up, and that's just something that I think we welcome, and it has a lifespan that generally those places are kept up and well maintained, and it wouldn't be like an apartment complex in my opinion that tend to go down as time goes on. But
How would you define that?
I just don't know, because again,
Or residents?
well, but how do we do that? I don't know, because every piece of property is going to be different. But if you pointed out all those areas,
Right.
and if someone comes in a commercial area that we have kind of tagged as a commercial place where we want to have some development with a property tax caveat there, I don't know.
Well, and right, and if it is permitted, they can utilize.
So then we turn into like the Station Park where we have allowed something in this area, and then it gets away from us and we lose control.
No, not with conditions. So the conditions are based on impacts on neighboring
But
properties.
that's an individual thing in my opinion. If it fits in some place, I don't care if it is. But you go over
I'd have
that
to
North Ogden, that new subdivision, I think that's a huge, that's a big thing. I mean, it's like a
You can control building height. You can.
development all in and of itself. I don't know. But I don't know if we put that. How do we state that? I wouldn't feel comfortable sitting in this area putting those limits on.
And that's where if you'd like to, I'd be happy to do.
So
more research and get-
as I looked at that, but again, if we allow it and we say, okay, we only want it to be 4 rooms, I don't know if here, but how many people are in that down there in North Ogden? There's 1,000? I don't know. No. 500? 200?
There's probably 100 days the lodge, but some of them are independent living.
But I would say there's no more than 50 or 60.
Really?
The dining room's not much bigger than this.
Yeah, the one on 2100 is pretty apartment size.
But anyway, and I don't want to get lost in those weeds, because that's really not here. But that is
We can find out.
by blanket saying that, then it's permitted in any of those places, which negates the reason why you guys put some of these places in. I think.
Well, these are the CP zones, and there are not that many CP zones currently. And maybe we ought to look at saying, okay, we want it in a particular CP zone, and if they want to, they have to come to rezone, and we can address it at that point.
But even down in Parkland or somewhere, I can see something like that possibly going in a big area if someone was to want to have a development in an area with the background of the horseshoe pond or something like that. I mean, I can see some developer wanting to buy that property and doing that. Is that what we want? Because that's how, my opinion of the zoning is to have a look into what we think we want to have there.
The concern is that we would have a commercial use that wouldn't meet the tax revenue that we're after. The lodge has 130 residents. But yeah, I think that's a legitimate concern, and there will be developers who will. This community's got an aging population.
Are we doing this? Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm sorry.
Or the C1, C2. Because we have identified those areas as C1, C2, C3 that we've just done along the corridor.
Is this coming up as because of a need?
Not that I know of.
No, there's not any specific development, and I'm not exactly completely sure where it came from, but.
So
I
why do
inherited it.
we do that and worry about it before it happens? Because we can always change the zone. You can always be petitioned to come in and look at the zone. I would question
Well,
why.
I think somebody did ask a year or so ago, and we had no area, and like, well, it would take a year just to get to the point where it could do it. And then it just kind of died. So it's kind of been it was on the back burner, I think, on Jill's back burner, and she was trying to wrap things up, so.
So was it permitted in any of the zones or right
Not
now?
currently, no.
That's not permitted or conditional in any zone?
Any zone of the city, or there are a few zones where it is, but not any of the CP zones.
If we make them all conditional on something, would that free up any of our latitude?
Conditional is pretty complex legally based on state law, and so ultimately, if it's conditional, it's permitted. You can have some different restrictions, so maybe like time of day things, just things that can
But
impede on the rights of neighboring properties. But
allowing an assisted living.
no, I don't think I just.
Conditional in C1 and C2.
Already in those zones that are C1, C2.
Conditional, what does that mean?
That's the ones that yeah.
So that's where you have to allow it, but you can set conditions.
But I thought you just said.
Not on site. So the conditions that you can set are based on how you impact neighboring properties, and there are limitations
Why
on
wouldn't
the
site?
conditions.
That would be an impact on neighbors.
You can do height requirements, but a lot of those things you need to have in place prior to. So
Can't say number
they
of
can't
units.
be arbitrary conditions. So there's limitations on what you can set conditions on. I guess that's the point. And maybe it is a size thing if it's, abutting a neighboring property, but if they're meeting all of the setbacks, if they're meeting all of the different guidelines, you can't just say, oh, well, we want to discourage this size of development even though it's the property.
So if we deny it at this time, what is or table it or something, or deny it, and just leave it as stated. If someone came in tomorrow and wanted to build an assisted living somewhere, that is it.
No, but it could,
If they wanted to vary.
not to just our part of it, but if they have to get this, prove this, change this, then ask for a rezone to this, it could take 6 months just for that part of it before they even come in with that building. They won't have that process. I'm not advocating one way or the other.
That's fine.
I'm more concerned
I would
that it's
rather
already
hand-
allowed in C1 and C2.
I would rather handle it on a case by case basis.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the
So I just want to echo in too, that was my first concern as well, Steve. So I totally agree with you that if we've selected that corridor, the commercial spots to be tax revenue, that's my concern too. So you're spot on with what I was thinking as well.
and still allow, and again,
Read out somewhere.
members of the community are gonna want this. They're gonna wanna
Yes, we
stay in
gotta-
Pleasantview, they're not gonna wanna go to North Ogden. But I agree, not having the zones.
Well, and to the very point, something Nelson brought up too, in that definition section, we can make some really nice clean definitions in those areas to what that can be, and so that makes it fair to everyone. And then it's not,
But there are some, we go beyond that. There are some other things, and my suggestion at this point is table it so we don't have to put it back to all the process. If we table it, we don't have to take it back to planning and do some more research. A couple of things concern me. It's already conditional in C1, C2, and that's what we basically redid our entire corridor to a C. So it's already in those areas. I'd rather have a zone where this is allowed, and if somebody wants to come and ask for a rezone for that area, we can see if it's a really good fit. But one zone.
So I would
And then-
say instead of adding it, I think we need to take it out.
And then I know we could, let me give you an example, because this did just come up, and that is storage units. city has limited and said you can have storage units here, here, and here, and only so many storage units per population, for housing units, dwelling units.
Are we maxed out to 2070?
So, but my point is, prior councils have said, we wanna limit these to certain places, certain zones, certain whatever, and I don't know why we didn't do something similar to that.
in a situation like this, they typically want to have a quiet area. So CP1 is probably more neighborhood commercial, and there's probably lots of places you could rezone in the city to have something like that.
So maybe we can do some more research, and see what others have done, and what we're allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do, and so on and so forth. Then we bring it back.
Yeah, I do.
Held public hearing, we've done everything, so that's why I said I wouldn't kill it, I just table it and let us answer some of the concerns.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to table item 1.
Second.
Okay, motion by Gibson, second by Arrington to table this, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item 2 is a public hearing, discussion of possible action to consider amending the Boone Municipal Code 18.43.240B, design requirements for amending the number of driveways dependent on frontage on commercial developments, ordinance 2022-6. They entertain a motion to go into public hearing. Motion by Yuri, second by Nelson, all in favor say aye. We're in a public hearing, Amy.
Thanks. You get a lot of my presentations tonight. I apologize in advance. So before you this evening is a modification to the ordinance language regarding driveways for commercial driveways. So right now, our ordinance is pretty clean cut in that no more than one driveway is allowed per 200 feet of street frontage. And then it also does address meeting UDOT standards. And so this actually adds a little bit more clarification depending on the type of property. And so the ordinance amendment would include 100 feet to 250 feet of frontage, allowing one driveway, 250 to 500, two driveways, and then if there were more than 500 feet of frontage, working with the city and negotiating what that might look like, and then obviously ensuring that UDOT standards are continually met on that one. So I don't know if there's any questions. It seems to add a bit more clarity depending on the type of property versus just very simple 1 per 200 feet.
You know, what UDOT standards are, I mean, are they pretty restrictive, I guess,
Yeah, on their roads.
where they cut in, where entrances on and off the road.
Yeah, on their roads. And actually, there's another one that'll be coming forward to that we did in planning commission last week, just the allowance of allowable distance away from UDOT roads in the first place. And so it is something that we do review and find details with UDOT and make sure that we meet the safety standards, because they don't want a big group of cars to kind of clog up the jam up traffic and come off the road onto the road. Safety hazard.
Just need UDOT to put in some curb.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and to answer that question a little bit, it depends on which road you're talking. There's roads on 189, and any of the roads are all a little bit different character and have all of those different standards.
So the roundabout style, drive-through driveways, considered driveways.
It is considered two driveways. Yes.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to go into public.
Go out in public.
Are we in it?
We're in one. But if you want to go into another one.
I think he made the motion, didn't he?
I thought we just.
Mayor made the motion, Phil seconded it.
No, I'm sorry.
Is there any members of the public that wish to
I'll make a
address?
motion to go out after that.
Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to go out of public. Motion by Gibson, second by Marriott, to go out of close public hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, back to our public meeting.
Back to those notes, Laurie. Did that happen? I was waiting for a public hearing to be there. Was I sleeping during that time?
Mine goes off, I don't know.
I am tired.
I heard something go boom on the All right. Any comments, concerns, questions? This one is pretty,
I think it's a good idea, I mean, just to allow it, right?
is that a motion?
Do we have any instances where we need less than 100 feet? We should have more than 100 feet of frontage, right, for business, but, I mean,
I mean, you've got some things where you're,
development, I guess, it's.
How did all these, people with circular driveways get?
Well, this is for commercial, so
Commercial. It's got 100 footage, doesn't it?
it's probably non-conforming.
but you go down to,
It's been
Parkland,
there
and
before the ordinance.
That's an example of one that probably would be left.
as long as it's well thought out, but you go to Parkland, I mean, every one of those has places, and there's some that you only have a 5 foot chunk between the driveways, but separate properties. I think it's fine, I would make a motion that we amend the municipal code as stated, ordinance number 2022-6.
Motion by Gibson, second by Yuri. No further comments. Roll call vote. Harrington.
Yes.
Gibson. Mary?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
I close the public hearing.
All righty.
We're open one?
Item 3 is discussion and possible action to consider approval of a commercial preliminary subdivision located at 2700 north at approximately 385 west. Applicant is Brent Bailey. Presenter is
Okay, so before you this evening, this has been through the planning commission, and this is part of our process modifications item, but they actually have gotten all of the items in and through, and there were some conditions that DRC look at this, that our engineer look at these items, and ultimately they're recommending approval because we've got everything in. So yes, they had a much more limited list on this one, because we've gotten the information from UDOT. That was one of the central things. I don't know if they were here, but I think that there was
This is probably the first time you guys have
I know.
seen. It's a neat development.
so this is
All the way over to the church.
the church is right next to where the church's property is, right next to it.
the whole bottom of 600 all the way over to the barn.
Oh, yeah.
Where that tent was? Yeah. So that's the remainder parcel.
So you can see it right here.
So all the way over to 1,000.
No,
No.
no. Yeah, so it's right here. So I think Mr. Daly owns over here, but this specific subdivision is
Also, wait,
this
it's
area
not?
right here. No,
But he's working with that.
but I think that the church is over here,
Yeah.
so I don't know if they are.
It's to the east of the.
Yes.
No.
I thought it was.
No, he does not own that chunk of, but he is working with them. And so, a couple of highlights of this. First off is the road, which will line up with the development across. That one there. And then the UDOT is requiring cross access. Okay, so if you go over where it says common area, that road that goes east and west right there, and that's where he's working with the other property owner. That eventually will go through that property, around that property, or behind that property, whatever, over to 600 west. So they're working together to come up with a development. He's also working with the people across the street, which is the Dave Laoli Group and the rest development,
And that's where they'll line up.
and that lines up with that.
But this
roadway,
is his property
according-
though, right
but
there.
This one, yeah, so this kind of a highlight.
The cross one, the northeast and west one.
It's just across, yeah,
It's cross access,
yeah, it's not a road, it's not this.
but
So
it'll
it'll access the church property there, that remainder parcel, and then
interconnect this.
that's required by UDOT, so they don't keep asking for more access on the 2025.
So how do we, you go in some of these places that have that cross access and it's so small that it's very hard to get traffic in and out. Is that be anything that we could say?
Well,
Only if we want to dedicate it as a road and take it
Maybe
on.
not a road light, because if that's gonna really turn into a major access,
I don't think it will.
out to 600, then we put it in development.
I think it's more to get people from there if they want to come to either side. But it just depends on what businesses come in there.
And this is preliminary, so if there's other details that you'd like to look at,
And
and that we can absolutely look at that. I mean, that's, part of the discussion this evening.
does it show a width there? I mean, we're saying it's pretty narrow, but
I don't see it on the stick,
I don't know that that is that. And if UDOT was happy with it, so that's all.
Yeah, UDOT and Dana were fine with that, but we could look into that a little bit. And I think the reason why the entrance is pretty wide, but why it goes in a little bit is to slow down the traffic. Because of all the different parking. Yeah.
They're not.
These are all pads right now, aside from, they are working on.
So unit 1 and unit 2, they do have
Site plan approval.
site plan approval.
Right here. Sorry, my mouse is not very noticeable.
So they're going to be starting to, and I don't even know what they are.
Commercial buildings, that's all we know.
Then,
There is,
then they're developing,
this is what they'll look like.
they wanted to do it as a subdivision, because they're not sure. All those other pads you see, some they might need to sell, and some they're just gonna keep on and lease. But depending on, they don't wanna lock themselves into just being lease only. If somebody wants to come in and wanna buy a whole pad and purchase it from them, they wanted to have it subdivided so that they could do that.
But they do want to get the parking lot and the curb cuts and everything in place so that the pads are ready to go as soon as and I know, based on the developer and discussions that they've got a lot of activity and interest in the area, so I think we will move pretty quickly along.
No, this has been good. This has kind of been an anchor, because like I said, he's worked really well with UDOT and the developer across the street, and UDOT and the developer to the east or to the west of him. Which are all going to be coming here pretty. I mean, we'll probably see not too far down the road the one across the property, because they're doing the same thing. They've done the site plan for the Rush, and that's so they can get that going. And then they're going to come in with the subdivision and do basically the same thing. They want to subdivide it so they can either lease or sell and have that flexibility. It's an extra step they have to do, but it's a good step. It's going to give them that flexibility.
So I know that we took the housing component out of the Rush piece, but there is a housing component in this one already, correct? Or is there not?
No, there is not.
Not in this proposal, but in the allowed thing.
No,
Not on
that's
this side
over.
of 89.
Yeah, that's on the other side of 89.
I know, but this,
They did propose for it
This-
over on the Rush side, and it was declined.
I know it was declined on the Rush side, but that is not part of the.
There's no housing in this. There's
so
no
this-
mixed use.
So this is not, so they can't
Commercial only.
push that. Further north?
The only housing is the M.
Where does that
mixed
end?
use
Goes up
west?
On the north
Those
side?
pieces you.
Start getting into
North of that
Thompson.
piece?
Cause that
North of that piece is the golf course.
No, but that you go up there. Where does that piece stop? Because you've got the piece that was the sod form, which I think is what this is. Then you have another piece that's up. I just wondered, because we had some people come years ago that wanted housing in their apartments, and no?
Current zoning there is probably still a resident. Define shortage property.
I don't know if it's agriculture.
Anyway, I'm sorry, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a housing component to that piece.
You guys are becoming better off than having.
So what's, so Bailey owns the 600? Who? Bailey?
No. No, he does not. It has changed hands 3 times in this last year.
Because you'd think that piece would develop first.
Two things. But, and somebody owned it, said they were not going to develop it, and then they ended up selling it. And somebody sold it again. Like I said, Brent, the meeting we had less than a month ago with Brent said he was working with that person to develop it basically.
So, I don't want to take away Dave's piece here, but if we, the road that goes in, the road that goes into that RE15 right there. Oh. So the RE15 chunk right there. Yeah, right there. So that road.
Line up with the one coming out.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what he's working with that owner for, to see where he wants it to come out. It's got to come out either the CP1 one or the one above it, like you just showed. It's got to be another. It's got to be an intersection.
And that's why we have those curb cut limits off of those dot roads.
Well, I travel at least 2 times a day. So, I'll possibly look and see what the distance is.
No, good dialogue, and the proposal before you right now doesn't extend that far, but I think.
No,
that is
I know, but
important
the
that
thinking further, if you've got that used. I'm
All right,
for it. I mean, I
let's-
think it's a good idea. I think
Let's bring it back to the Bailey one. And do we need to make it a motion contingent still on conditions there?
No, the conditions have been met.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the commercial preliminary subdivision located on 2700 North, approximately 385 West.
Okay, motion by Arrington, second by Nelson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 4, discussion possible action to consider approving a long-term stormwater management agreement with Wasatch View Retail.
So before you this evening is consideration of that stormwater management plan agreement. This is typical with new development to ensure that our water quality standards are being met. So this is for development for Dutch Bros in Pleasant View and meets and addresses those water quality standards that are outlined in our LID and state federal guidelines. So I don't know if there's any questions that when you have these agreements that come forward, we do have council consideration to allow for to go forward.
Questions? Good. If not, I'd entertain a motion. Motion to have a second.
question I have.
Executive second.
So are they going to manage our stormwater to make sure we have signage and all the different things? Or what exactly?
No, so this is their agreement to
What do we
follow
get?
all of the existing standards
It's just this commercial company.
with just this commercial development area. And
Same
so-
thing with like Shell down there.
They will just adhere to.
it's to adhere to our standards and it says that they're gonna meet standards as they are going through the construction process to ensure alterations to the existing storm and surface water will be addressed in accordance with standards.
Has it been seconded, Mayor?
Mayor, I'll second the motion.
Okay, I've got it made over here. Motion by Yuri, second by Marion.
Yes.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Closed meeting. We have a closed meeting.
Yeah, any items this evening?
Did I just stay for the
Thank you. Okay.
That's when the arm
Other
wrestling comes
business.
out. That was the arm wrestling comes out.
Chief? For other business. Start with you.
When we were talking about care facility, or you were a while ago, the individual who owns the lighthouse, where we had our youth group home, he's got a business in there now for, I guess it's adoption and counseling. And we also found out he's trying to, under that license, he's got a in-house disabled adults housed in there. I know it hasn't been through the city council and is not licensed for that.
And his license, his current license, that may be expired.
He does have, well, his business license is expired. He does have a license, but it's not relative to care of disabled adults, and so not to jump into, but we are working with the state and the health department to ensure that all of the proper guidelines are being met to protect those residents there.
So we've got the state of Utah looking into it, and what it comes down to is they won't license him unless the city licenses.
Okay, I was just about to ask that. I was gonna say, this seems like we're doing this backwards.
Yeah. So anyway,
He comes in and
he's got a
establishes
little less
business,
than.
and then we, yeah, retroactive to come in and do it. That just doesn't seem right to me, so.
Been little less than cooperative on this, and now he's just telling us to talk to his attorney. He doesn't have an attorney. Anyway, it's in motion. It'll work out. We'll either get it approved or get it shut down one way or the other. So we're looking into the police department.
It really bothers me. I'm afraid, and I'm not accusing them of this because we don't know, but that's my problem. We don't know, the state don't know. They come in and well, set up this business, and I don't know if it's not licensed and monitored by the proper authorities, that's when you start to get problems. And not being well cared and that kind of stuff. Or don't think that's happening. I have no idea, but that's the problem. I have no idea.
Youth have been out there for a couple of months now. So it just seems to be skirting the proper channels. So we're trying to get him lined up with doing it properly.
Can you give the address? Do you know the address?
Or where, throw it on a map, or?
I don't have it handy. It's next to that Jerry's Heating right in there. 31 something North Highway.
Thank you for looking into that.
So we're still looking into that. I just thought I'd let you know what we're doing. When I heard this care facility, everything being on hold, do or don't, and I thought we got something brewing right now that probably shouldn't be going, but we're gonna either make it compliant or have it.
It should be easy. If you want to do the business, just do it right.
And also, we're looking into some state grants for some high-end budget items. State of Utah is dictating dash cam and body cam videos being a huge part of mandatory evidence for prosecution, and our system doesn't seem to be keeping up with it. So we're looking into some grants.
Do you have the key to that, Nick? We have to just close it for safety reasons. If somebody knocks, we'll open it.
So more to come on that as it comes available. Well, yeah, and it's been several years, and we've got a box of broken ones. I've only been a cop for years.
He carries a Polaroid on a chain around his neck.
I just sketch it out. Anyway, closer to budget time, we'll talk a little more about that. So we're, of course, working on budget. Also, our canine dog has passed his second drug research, which is really good because they're only required to pass one. He's gone more in depth with the handler, passed his second more intense drug recertification detection. So we got the best of the best with our canine dog, and you've seen a little brief demonstration on it. Construction site thefts are up. Don't figure. We've had officers that even in plane cars have gone down at night and walked through homes in a construction looking at them. Nobody called in on them. He said he spent an hour at the house at 2 o'clock in the morning. Nobody will call in on it. So it's no wonder we're getting some thefts. We know who one suspect is. We're watching him close. Some of you may know our crossing guard, Chris Galfius. The situation with her daughter being extremely injured in a skiing accident over the weekend. It's Paul Pitcher. Those who know Paul Pitcher, it's his daughter and granddaughter. Granddaughter, 16, was hurt up in Sun Valley, Idaho. Pardon? Oh, who? Sunday. Anyway, it's a serious thing, and Chris is an employee of the city. Yeah.
We are on the public record.
So anyway, I've reached out to Chris via text and given our support from the city and the police department if they need anything. Chris does work for the city as a crossing guard. I think a lot of us know the family, so just thought I'd share with you that keep them in our prayers. And other than that, we're staying busy. A lot of investigations, have sex crimes, different things going on, but we're keeping up with it. So appreciate your support on everything.
Amy.
Just a couple of quick things. So we are doing interviews this week for our planner position. We're excited about that. And also, we started an employee training series. So we just did one on de-escalation. Our next one's going to be on sexual harassment. So every month we're going to do a training with our employees and bring in some snacks, try to make it a little bit fun for them, and quickly go through some important items. And one of them we added to the series, thanks to the Marriott. Today we modified the schedule a little bit and added in emergency preparedness. And make sure that that's on the list.
All right. Yep.
Awesome.
I think it's the same as last time. Not having any report.
So we just met Saturdays.
Sure. Okay. See?
I just wanted to have
Yeah.
So Amy, if you want to bring up any stuff, I will not be here the work Tuesday of March.
Thanks. That's where I'll do my study hyper focus.
We'll get them all approved. Approve all those, and I can.
Okay.
The only thing I have is I will not be here on March 8th. That's our next meeting, since we will be coming after. Okay.
We have a Founders Day coming up.
So I'll be out of town from this Friday till March 12th.
I have one. I want to. I talked to the mayor on Saturday. You know, Woody sold his survey. The surveying owner broke his back. He's out for that.
Oh no.
And he does not feel that he can put all effort into that in his car. Woody's still willing to help. He does not want to. I wonder if they're at work.
see if anybody wants to help sponsor. Woody did about $2,500 worth of stuff for prizes, trophies. He says really on the budget for the trophies, cars, stuff. And we do a tremendous amount of stuff. Registering is the day of. There's a $100 fee to get in the one of the Hot Rod magazine newsletter. A lot of the people follow. It'd be $100. I don't know if $100 a time. No, and we can do that too. But I want to put it out there so that anybody's willing to help sponsor. No, for to help on that day. They're at home. Sponsor financially.
But it could be two different
What's
people
your
then.
name on it? Woody is willing to MC like the Bell has done. He just doesn't have time, and he's done it for years, so he wants to pass the buck. And anyway, so if you think about that, and you stop it. Yeah. So just, I'm gonna talk to the West Haven people. I guess that's the biggest car show other than the Brigham City. The West Haven, and they have several different things all day. That's how we have the West Haven. But I'm looking into it. Don't need to panic yet. I'm really comfortable.
Was really fast.
I'll take that back.
Just, I have the mayor and Sarah going down to St. George for the League Conference. I don't know if anyone else is planning. If you could get me a travel date so I can get your hotel booked up.
Me, Mayor, and Ann?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, Sarah's invited to come too. So is Dave, and so is Steve, and so is Phil. Oh, yes, sorry, Ann. Yes, it does. On the 21st. So they have a midday thing on the 20th.
Starts about noon on the 20th, doesn't it?
Well, in the evening, I think they usually do like an ice cream social, and then it ends on Friday afternoon. But if you wanted to stay later or whatever, I'm happy to. The city won't pay for those nights, but you're welcome to. Okay, I have photographic memory, so you're on. Well, and that's one thing too. I mean, if you prefer to book your own hotels, it's at the conference center, the convention. Sometimes they'll do like a government discount rate, or I don't know. I'm gonna book mine, so if it's easier if I book through, but if you gotta do your own, that's okay. Reimbursed. It's really fun. Next year Dave's going, so I go in 2023 too. Friday at usually noon or 1. And you don't have to tell me today. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, maybe keep going.
I was hoping to hit 7, and we're just not quite there. Okay.
Oh, blah.
Disappointing for you.
Yeah, when you go down and you give stuff away to